the British Grand Prix 2026, round 9 of this year's World Championship. And it was Charles Leclerc who comes out on top in a race that almost didn't really ever get going. It was a race that was very slow to begin with, but towards the end we really did get the excitement we were hoping for, and that often is delivered around Silverstone. But then, in a way, we were then almost denied that excitement right at the end with the very late safety car. Antonelli was on pole for this race, the winner of the sprint race yesterday, and it was back to his old habits once again for the championship leader. A bad start, and he's third by turn 1. Leclerc from second place into first, leading from the first corner, and Hamilton up into second. But he will obviously not hold on to that second place, as he is eventually given a 5-second penalty for the slight jump he makes just before the 5 lights go out. It was a relatively clean first lap from all the drivers. However, we did have a little bit of contact. We had Behrman and Albon making contact into turn 6. And we also had Piastri and Lawson making contact, which I don't think we ever actually saw on the broadcast, but it did happen, as Piastri then was complaining about damage, and he did have a heavily damaged front wing, which he does pit for, I think, on lap 2, and that really does ruin Piastri's race. I think he finishes 13th or 14th, I think. He really struggled to make up the places in that race, in a McLaren that wasn't really there this weekend. Now, I mentioned this race was a slow starter, and that became very clear when the most drama we'd had after 22 laps was the world's briefest virtual safety car for an umbrella that had floated onto the track from the crowd. And that was genuinely the most exciting thing that happened in this race for the first 22 laps. But lap 34 is where the drama really starts to begin. George Russell told over the radio he's got a slow puncture. If you're new to F1, a slow puncture is... Well, you have a puncture where your tyre just blows up, basically. But a slow puncture is where the tyre basically starts to slowly lose pressure and will eventually just decompress and will kind of pop. I think they kind of pop like balloons, really, when they've got a slow puncture. So he's told about that on lap 34. And so you think he's going to pit, and he doesn't, because he's trying to overtake Max, who is quick, but not that quick, realistically. He's doing well to hold on to his position at that moment. But Russell is determined to get past Max. So he doesn't pit despite the threat of his tyre basically just popping halfway around this lap. He obviously does eventually pit on lap 35, the next lap round, to get rid of the dodgy tyre and continue on his way. Our first retirement in this race came on lap 38 when the Audi of Nico Hülkenberg stopped. I don't know, I think it was an engine failure for Nico. Disappointing for him, really. The Audis looked okay. I think Bortoleto did score points, actually, in this race. So it could have been double points for Audi, but Hülkenberg retiring on lap 38, then with 10 laps left. The race has got a little bit more exciting with the possibility of George Russell having an issue. And then the real issue comes into play for Mercedes. Kimi Antonelli going very slow down the hangar straight, complaining over the radio, sounding massively frustrated, as he would be, leading the race at this point in time with some sort of issue. Him and Mercedes both think it's a suspension issue. Bono's over the radio going, mate, we're gonna have to finish. We can't. We need to retire the car. Kimi, bless him, is absolutely determined to get something from this race. So going down the hangar straight slowly, Kimi, thankfully, is very close to the pit lane entry, so he is able to pit on lap 42. After complaining over the radio, he comes in, Mercedes replaces all 4 wheels, obviously, and his front wing, and send him back out. So he comes back out in 5th. 2 laps later, on lap 44, there's something stuck in his suspension. Looks like one of the old wheel arches they used to have last year. It's obviously not that, because they're not on the car anymore. So I don't know what it was actually sort of lodged in his suspension. So he then has to pit again. They rip this piece of car out of his suspension. He then rejoins 5 places back, so he's now in 10th place. And I have never heard a driver quite so determined to finish a race since Nico Rosberg back in, I think it was 2014 Abu Dhabi, when his car was fucked, but he finished the race anyway. I genuinely don't think any driver's been as determined since then to finish a race for some points. And Kimi would have only ever got 1 point anyway. Lap 47, so it's 3 laps after he's just made his second unnecessary pit stop to rip this bit of car out of his car. He's given a 5-second penalty for leaving the track. Now, this penalty, realistically, is for drivers who have left the track and gained an advantage. Kimi didn't gain any advantage because his car's broken. He's not gaining on anyone. If anything, he's losing time to, I think it was Colapinto behind him. So it was a very harsh 5-second penalty for Kimi. And they're not going to stop him again to serve the 5-second penalty because it will just drop him even further and he definitely won't get the points. But obviously, with the ending we had, he does finish 15th, I think, so doesn't get the points anyway. Now, lap 48 is where it all kicks off and is ultimately the beginning of the end of this race, really. Albon retires, which isn't the key in this story, but he does retire on lap 48. It was another horror weekend for Albon in the Williams. Lapped very early on, just had no pace. It was the contact on lap 1 that really just kind of ruined his race. It was very similar to Piastri, where contact on lap 1 and your race is kind of ruined, but it was so much worse for Albon. But Albon retires, and genuinely, I think about 10 seconds later, Max Verstappen in the gravel, and he's beached his car. So I don't know what happened, but he's going through one of the fast... I don't know the corner names, man. I'm not that good. I don't have that kind of ball knowledge. I don't have the corner knowledge. It's Maggots or Beckett's he's going through. And the rear goes, nah, I'm all right. And just doesn't go with the car. Spins off into the gravel. Is beached, so he obviously can't get going again, causing the full safety car this time, not just a VSC, a full safety car, which allows a couple people to make a free pit stop, essentially, which includes Charles Leclerc. So Leclerc now leading this race, pits from first, gets some fresh tyres on for the last few laps of the race. Key to this, Russell and Hamilton. Hamilton second at this point, Russell third at this point. Ferrari pit, assuming we're going to get 1 or 2 laps left of racing in this race. Russell doesn't pit. Hamilton comes in, Russell doesn't, and takes second off of Hamilton. But it's definitely something Ferrari didn't see happening, where the safety car doesn't come in and give us one last lap of racing. It was an ending that was massively anticlimactic. Some will say it's reminiscent of Abu Dhabi 2021. Yes, it is in a way, but a lot less implications on that. That's possibly the most dramatic and controversial ending to a Formula One race we're ever going to have. This was similar to it, where the safety car should have come in and we should have had lap 52, the final lap, and that should have been full speed racing. But for whatever reason, at the last moment, the safety car doesn't pit and allow that to happen. Still unsure why that happened, but race control are never going to just let them race if they don't think it's safe to do so. So there will have been a reason. But it is disappointing that we were denied some sort of fight for the win, even if it was just a fight for second between Lewis and George. It is a little bit disappointing.